Oh my goodness, did you see that? Notre Dame, in fact, may not be able to compete for an ACC championship even if they were eligible to play for an ACC championship. Welcome to the Voice of College Football. We break down the game we all love each and every day with you. Best discussion, debate, and analysis based on your participation here. Final score from Louisville. Whatever they call their stadium at this point, it used to be Papa John's Stadium. Louisville 33 and Notre Dame 20. The Irish faced three consecutive difficult games, and there was much talk about it all week and during the broadcast about emotionally, mentally, and physically being pressed to the limit. And they certainly were against Ohio State, losing in gut-wrenching fashion 2 weeks ago on the final play of the game, and then pulling one out that they could have easily lost against a game Duke team. But on this night, it was a really competitive game, good game. But in the fourth quarter, second half, man, Louisville was the much, much, much better football team, at least on this night. Let's pick it up from the beginning. And Mitchell Evans, he looks like Michael Mayer to me. He's just the next in line of great, great Notre Dame tight ends. Exceptional hands, route runner, recognizes the coverage, does what he needs to do to get open, and he is a terror in the open field to try to bring down. Mitchell Evans, get him the football. 4 catches, 71 yards. That was my initial thought, although they tried to get him the ball, and Quincy Riley intercepted Sam Hartman. That wasn't Mitchell Evans, though. That was the wide receiver on the left side, and Hartman threw it a little bit too long, but the receiver was not looking for the football, so I didn't feel as though it was a poorly thrown pass. But again, the receiver not ready, and this is actually a talking point for Notre Dame football, is the lack of big play capability on the outside. I think it is killing them right now. All right. Louisville scores a touchdown, 12 plays, 70 yards, 7:06 on the drive. Sixth-year quarterback Jack Plummer. Of course, we know that he came back to study and play under Jeff Brom, whom he originally played under at Purdue. And Brom talked this week about really kicking him in the rear end and coaching him hard early at Purdue to drill him with good fundamentals and good work habits. And he doesn't really coach him that hard anymore. Well, Plummer went to Cal. He lost a lot of football games, and now he's at Louisville, and look at the deal. Sixth-year quarterback. We've made a lot of references, and we've talked a ton this offseason about Sam Hartman and the type of leadership and stability and maturity and experience he would bring to Notre Dame. Well, Louisville being off the radar coming into this season, we didn't talk much about Jack Plummer. He's played a lot of football too. Maybe not at the level of Sam Hartman, certainly, but look at him now. So Jack Plummer turns in a decent game. Jabari Thrash is his biggest play, consistently the biggest play threat that they've got. They connected on an early touchdown, 8 catches, 75 yards for Thrash on this day. This game stayed 7-0 for a long, long time, deep into the second quarter, but Notre Dame finally moved it down the field, 11 plays, 88 yards. Jordan Faison with a couple outstanding catches on this drive, including a 36-yarder, tied it at 7-7 at that point. The Louisville front seven against the Notre Dame offensive line, and the longer the game went on, the more dominant Louisville was in the front seven. Audric Estime, who I believe is just a bowling ball wrecking crew. Who would want to get in front of this guy? 10 carries for 20 yards. The Notre Dame rushing attack, and I'm taking out sacks. I'm taking out all the Hartman plays. 18 carries, 56 yards. 298 yards of total offense for Notre Dame football, and that's with throwing the ball around there in the last 5 or 6, 8 minutes during garbage time. Louisville, starting the second half, 2-play, 64-yard drive, and that was, we have to finally get to this name, Jahar Jordan. Phenomenal runner, 21 carries, $143. We know his quickness and speed. He was Louisville's leading rusher last season, so college football fans know about him. But he is also a tough dude that loves to carry the ball, loves to get into a rhythm, get a lather going, and wear on the defense. So he's not just a speed guy. Okay, so Louisville scores to take the lead at that point on the touchdown drive by Jordan. He had the long touchdown run and just juked number 2 just out of his socks, and he did that a little bit later on his final touchdown run. Notre Dame came back and they overcame a 1st and 25 after a face mask penalty in which Hartman hit for a big play down the field. It was called back due to a face mask. 1st and 25. Credit Notre Dame that they converted, moved the ball downfield, hit the 54-yard field goal, and got it to within 17-13 at that point. All right. The key point in this game, I believe, was we had a 17-13 ball game, and it was starting to get a bit late. We're talking early fourth quarter, and there was a hit out of bounds. I still don't exactly understand the penalty because there was traffic out of bounds, and it didn't look like it was that late to me, and I only saw one replay. But Notre Dame was called for a late hit. They would have gotten off the field. They were only down by 4 at that point. That made it a 2-score game as Louisville closed the drive out with another touchdown run from Jordan. And again, he juked out number 2 and 24-13 at that point. Sam Hartman started to get desperate. So did Marcus Freeman. What was the call on 4th and 11? You're down 24-13. There's about 9 minutes left in the game. And at your own 15 or 20-yard line, and they went for it. 4th and 11. That is probably a 10 or 12% success ratio play. They didn't get it, and Louisville scores another touchdown to make it 30-13, and pretty much the game was over at that point. And Hartman had earlier, our first reference there was the first quarter interception, his first of the season. So Hartman's made it into 6 games with no interceptions at this point through 3 on this night. The first one was not necessarily a bad throw. Another one, not a bad throw. And the final was in desperation. Although Notre Dame still had a hope here at 33-20 with about 90 seconds left to play. But Hartman tipped ball into the air. Devin Neal had 2 of the 3 interceptions for Louisville. So Louisville on this night rushes 36 times for a $197. We're taking out the quarterback in those rushing averages as they march on to the win 33-20. Louisville's biggest win since Lamar Jackson, I would say, since some of those wins against Florida State and other teams when they were vying for ACC championships. Of course, they never got it done. Now this Louisville team is now 6-0, and while the focus going forward seems to be on Notre Dame at this point, they've got USC next week. They're staring at 5-3 if they don't make things right next week at home. Here's the deal. Sam Hartman, nothing wrong with Sam Hartman. Not that he's not making mistakes, not that he didn't press tonight, but the pass rush was pretty ferocious. And Egod, the Notre Dame or the Louisville defensive end who took out Joe Alt a few times, just ran over him like he was not an All-American, didn't get the memo. That was pretty astounding. But Hartman's fine. However, he has propensity in the past to throw interceptions. He threw 14 last season. Now, the offense was more on his shoulders. This was supposed to be more run-oriented with him complementing that, and he wouldn't have to have all that pressure. But with the lack of downfield speed and talent on the outsides, I think it's pretty obvious. That's the issue with Notre Dame. And I don't think the offensive line is quite as good. I think it's still a decent offensive line, but not up to Notre Dame standards. Yes, Notre Dame being higher profile, people will focus on the negatives there. But let's focus on the positives for Louisville. 6-0 now. They've got a game at Pitt, which I would have told you preseason that would be a nice football game. But Louisville, well, they're going to be on a high, so guard for the letdown, especially on the road in Heinz Field. Then they've got Duke in 2 weeks, minus Riley Leonard. So Louisville going forward vies for an ACC championship without having to play Florida State, North Carolina, or Clemson in the regular season. How about that? Can you imagine Louisville in the ACC championship? Louisville undefeated. They will play Kentucky, of course, as well at the conclusion of the season. They've got a date at Miami, which looms large in November as well. Your thoughts about Louisville? Your thoughts about Notre Dame? The season's not over, folks. Keep playing, and we will see how it all pans out right here at the Voice of College Football.